Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. Massive rescue operation underway in India's hill state of Uttarakhand. The authorities say the trapped workers in the tunnel are safe. Proper communication established. Qatar says Israel-Hamas truce to begin on Friday at 7 a.m. local time. Hostages to be released in the evening. The populist leader, Girit Wilders Freedom Party, emerges as the big winner in the election. Wilders says that he will bring an end to a tsunami of asylum and immigration. And Argentina hikes taxes on dollar savings and bank cards ahead of Malays taking power. The measure is to protect the country's dollar reserves. Rescuers have restarted drilling with an auger drilling machine, through the 60 meters of debris to rescue 41 workers trapped in an under-construction tunnel in India's Himalayan region. Now, they had drilled through 45 meters of the 60-meter stretch of the debris. Once the drill breaks through, the officials said that they have a plan to send rescuers through the evacuation pipe using stretchers on wheels. And so the ambulances are on standby to take the men to hospital about 30 kilometers away. The route for the ambulances, too, has been cleared of congestion. A massive rescue operation is underway to save 41 men trapped in a highway tunnel in India's Himalayan state of Uttarakhand for over 10 days now. The lattice of a steel girder arch that had slowed progress was removed on Thursday. Rescuers had encountered the lattice steel girder arch after drilling through 45 meters of the estimated 60-meter stretch of debris.
At the moment, it's like we're there, we're knocking. Yeah. We know the guys are on the other side, but we can't get in. So I'm just going to go have a look and see what's happening.
Efforts are on to drill the last third of the debris blocking the tunnel. The process requires utmost care for fear of causing more debris to fall. The plan is to use an evacuation pipe to pull the men to safety.
But I am happy to tell you that the entire steel which was obstructing the free movement of the pipe inside has now been removed.
Once the drilling is completed, Indian officials plan to send rescuers through the evacuation pipe with stretchers on wheels to bring out the trapped men. Authorities in India say communication has been established to coordinate the rescue of the trapped workers.
They are doing an immense job. They're all very trained workers, and they are the ones who are using all this equipment, and there's no dearth of equipment. No dearth of equipment there.
The tunnel is located on India's Char Dham pilgrimage route and is part of a project to link 4 important pilgrimage sites with 890 kilometers of 2-lane road. The construction of this tunnel will provide all-weather connectivity to Yamunotri, one of the holy sites on the Char Dham Yatra, encouraging regional socio-economic development, trade and tourism within the country.
Hopes are high that by tomorrow afternoon, some good news might come. The 41 trapped workers will be out soon with the efforts of all the agencies that are working round the clock. Even international tunneling experts are on the ground working round the clock to bring them out as soon as possible. Medical equipments and emergencies have been called on the site to ensure the safety and security of all the 41 trapped workers. This is Divyendu Mondal reporting from Uttarakhand with camera person Gaurav for DD India.
Well, efforts are underway to evacuate the 41 workers who remain trapped inside an under-construction tunnel in Uttarkashi in the Indian state of Uttarakhand. The trapped workers are getting cooked food and medicine, while the 2-kilometer section of the tunnel remains the focus of the rescue efforts, and national and international tunnel experts have joined hands in this rescue operation.
Expediting efforts for safe evacuation, the government has intensified rescue operations at the Silkyara tunnel in Uttarkashi, where 41 workers remain trapped. Electricity and water supply are on. Provisions, including cooked food and medicines, are being delivered through additional pipelines of 6-inch diameter, in addition to the existing 4-inch lifeline.
ऑगर मशीन का ऑपरेशन दोबारा शुरू हो गया है, सो दैट इज़ अ वेरी गुड साइन. और तीन पाइप और 6-6 मीटर की जाने का हम एक जो एस्टिमेट लगा रहे हैं वो काम शुरू हो गया है.
5 Indian agencies have been assigned specific responsibilities, working collaboratively with occasional task adjustments for operational efficiency. Besides, national and international tunnel experts too are present at the site to give additional guidance.
मैं आपको इतना आश्वासन देता हूं कि अगर कोई अड़चन नहीं आई इसके अंदर, ऑगर जो है अपने स्पीड पे चलता रहा 4 से 5 मीटर पर घंटा, और उसके अंदर जो है पाइप्स को लगा, ड्रम्स जो है हमारे पाइप्स जो है उनको लगा कर वेल्डिंग करते रहे हम, जिसमें 3 से 4 घंटे लगते हैं हर पाइप को लगाने में. तो आप समझिए शायद कल दिन में किसी वक्त आपको खुशखबरी मिल सकती है.
International experts Arnold Dix from the International Tunnelling and Underground Space Association Geneva and microtunneling expert Chris Cooper from Australia are also contributing to the efforts.
All of the government agencies, all of the departments, all of the international organisations, we're working together to have some other doors, and also thinking about how to open this door at the moment, the one that everyone was expecting with the auger. But my message has always been, and still is, 41 men are coming home safe. We don't quite know when, but we know they're coming home safe. No one's been hurt. This is an international emergency where there is no one hurt, just some people we need to bring home, and we're going to bring them home together.
The under-construction tunnel collapsed on the 12th of November 2023, the rubble piling up through a 60-meter stretch on the Silkyara side. Fuzail Ahmed's report for DD India.
In a major development in the Israel-Hamas conflict, Qatar, which is playing the role of a mediator, says that a ceasefire and the release of hostages will begin on Friday. Let's look at this report.
It has been 7 weeks. Etan Gonen has not seen his daughter. These photos are now Etan and his wife's only solace for their daughter. 23-year-old Romi was kidnapped by Hamas from a music festival in southern Israel on October 7. The couple is waiting eagerly for Romi.
Romi, as a free spirit, she needs to be free. All the time. Every kid, every child should be free. And as a parent that is undergoing horrific times, you can imagine how is it to be a parent to a kid that is basically kidnapped.
Hamas has taken over 200 people hostage. The fighting continues between Israeli Defense Forces and Hamas in Gaza. A short-term ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, which would allow the release of some hostages held in Gaza, has been delayed on Thursday. Qatar later confirmed that the ceasefire will begin at 7 a.m. local time on Friday. Israeli army has detained the director of Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza for questioning. The IDF is investigating whether the hospital was used as a command and control center for Hamas.
He builds tunnels. He supplies from the tunnels, from the hospital outside, all the supplies to the terrorists. So we have to create destruction in those houses, because those houses outside the hospital are either mosques. The tunnel comes out in a mosque, then goes back to the hospital. Comes out in a school, goes back to the hospital. That's the system.
Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez and his Belgian counterpart Alexander De Croo met Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem on Thursday. The Spanish PM called for humanitarian ceasefire. Newly appointed British Foreign Secretary David Cameron visited Kibbutz Be'eri in southern Israel on Thursday. Be'eri is one of the most affected communities in the October 7 Hamas attack. While Israeli forces fighting Hamas in Gaza, IDF is on high alert on the northern front along the Lebanon border, where Hezbollah has launched attacks. The Israel-Hamas conflict enters its 48th day. It stirred fears of a wider conflict across the Middle East. Abhishek Bose for DD India.
Well, for more on the story, we are joined by Sarah Coates, who's joining us from Tel Aviv in Israel. Sarah, what can you tell us about the expected hostage release?
Hello there, Mark. Well, look, this will happen at 7 a.m. tomorrow. This is when the ceasefire will begin, this 4-day ceasefire. It's just been announced really in the last hour or so. At 4 p.m. also tomorrow, 12 hostages will be released. Now, they will likely be taken through the Rafah border crossing before being brought back to Israel. It's unclear at this stage whether they will be handed by Hamas over to the Red Cross before they're handed to Egyptian officials. But this was certainly reports of this stumbling block was the Red Cross there. Apparently, Hamas didn't want to hand any hostages over to the Red Cross. It wanted to hand them straight to Egyptian border officials, although Israel was adamant that part of this deal that the Red Cross must be involved. Now, we do understand that they will be women and they'll be children after they've got out of the Gaza Strip. They'll then be taken to hospital here in Israel, where they'll undergo a number of checks. Now, we've just heard also from the Israeli Prime Minister's office. It put out a statement saying that it has confirmed that Israel has received an initial list of names of people expected to be freed. It is now checking details and is informing the families of these hostages. And look, Mark,
yes,
these families have had an extremely rough 24 hours. They've been comparing it to psychological torture. And one can only imagine if you're given the potential hope that your loved one is being freed and then that seems to have been dashed, then that would be absolutely horrendous. So look, they say that they are happy that this is happening, but they're not getting their hopes up given what has happened before.
Indeed, Sarah, and also the international leaders continue to visit Tel Aviv and Israel. There's been the Spanish and the Belgian prime ministers who've been there. There's also the British foreign secretary who's arrived. What has been the outcome of their visits?
Well, look, James Cameron was touring these very southern communities a little earlier today. He was with the President, Isaac Herzog, looking at these communities and the destruction left behind in the wake of those October 7 attacks. He said that I've seen things that I will never forget. So look, certainly a very important visit, especially coming on a day when there was so much diplomacy needed to sort out this hostage deal. And with regards to the Prime Ministers of Belgium and Spain, they also met with the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, also the President Herzog. Prime Minister Sanchez from Spain, he said that Israel has to respond to these terrible attacks, but its response cannot include the deaths of innocents, including thousands of children, saying that a two-state solution is the only way forward to peace. Now, these two prime ministers are also proposing for an international peace conference as soon as possible, really pushing this notion that a two-state solution is the only way to go, which of course is the same that we've heard from the United States, both from the President and from the Secretary of State. So look, certainly really pushing Israel to look beyond this war, beyond this ceasefire and beyond its military ambitions in the Gaza Strip and look toward what comes next for a post-Hamas Gaza.
Sarah Coates, thanks very much. The UK Foreign Secretary, as Sarah was saying, David Cameron, is in Israel, where earlier on Thursday he visited a town where 100 were murdered by Hamas fighters on the 7th of October. The UK has been pushing for humanitarian pauses in Gaza, and its military also has been providing intelligence to the IDF. Here's Stuart Smith's report.
Former UK Prime Minister said he wanted to come himself to see the horrific attack the town suffered in October. He relayed being told how parents were shot in front of their children and children shot in front of their parents, a message he said he would never forget. Earlier on Thursday, he said he hoped for the humanitarian pause, an important opportunity, he said, to get hostages out and aid in. But that plan has been delayed, with Israeli officials saying any swap would happen at the earliest on Friday. If it does happen, it's expected around 50 Israeli women and children would be released while fighting pauses to ensure safety for aid convoys entering Gaza. Ahead of arriving in Israel, David Cameron spoke with Arab and Islamic leaders in the UK. Stuart Smith in London, reporting for DD India.
Still to come here on DD India News Hour. The Dutch leader, Geert Wilders, says that he favors a referendum on staying in the EU. And New Zealand is to get a new government. A three-party coalition is to form the government. Also 4 killed in Russian shelling in Kherson region.
Recent conflicts, wars and calamities have displaced millions of people worldwide. Will this migrant situation lead to a global socio-economic crisis? Watch Connecting the Dots at these times only on DD India.
A platform for the developing world, amplifying the voice of the global south with a focus on the growing economies, resolving the conflicts, showcasing the culture, tradition, heritage and diversity. Watch Voice of the Global South at these times on DD India.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders. You're watching DD India News Hour. My name is Mark Lynn. The populist leader, Geert Wilders, his Freedom Party, it's won the Netherlands elections in a victory that is set, it's caused some shockwaves across Europe. The Freedom Party actually hasn't really won the elections because it just won 37 seats. And it's ahead of its nearest rival, which is a left-wing alliance. However, in order to become the Prime Minister and form a government, Wilders will have to convince other parties to form a coalition, as he needs 76 seats for a majority in the 150-member parliament.
In the 150-member parliament of Netherlands, popular leader Geert Wilders' Freedom Party emerged as big winner in the election. In a victory speech, Wilders promised to bring an end to a tsunami of asylum and immigration.
We will make sure that the Netherlands will be for the Dutch people again. We will restrict the asylum tsunami and migration. People will have more money in their wallet again.
The result is an enormous surprise for many.
It's an earthquake. You can call it an earthquake. Nobody expected this result. PVV, which more or less is a radical populist outlier in Dutch politics, becoming the biggest party, Prime Minister's party perhaps even, that was really not expected by anyone. Not even by Geert Wilders, the potential Prime Minister himself.
Beating all predictions, his Freedom Party won 37 seats out of 150, well ahead of 25 for a joint ticket and 24 for the Conservative People's Party for Freedom and Democracy of outgoing Prime Minister Mark Rutte. Ravindra Chauhan's report for DD India.
Ja hoor, in Lunnebak.
Yes. And to provide us with some context and background to this story, we have with us Professor Uma Salma Bhava from the School of International Studies, JNU. Thanks very much, ma'am, for being with us. So it's not quite a majority, not even a sweeping majority. But since Wilders has got to form a coalition government, do you see him compromising on some of his hardline positions he's taken? You know, I mean, one is against immigration, one is against about leaving the EU, and he targets certain communities as well.
So good evening and thank you so much. Clearly, like you said, the results are in, but you know, it's a clear indication that it is, you know, one could read it as enough of the old and let's start with something new. But having said that, I think it's also now the most important task. While he may have convinced a certain amount of voters and secured that 37 seats, he's far short of that 76 seat, golden number to be sworn in to form the government. And I think this is where the very important exercise will begin. One can just look back to the last elections in 21, where it took almost 300 days to form the government. So building the coalition is going to be extremely critical, and who comes on board in terms of the center-right parties, will become very crucial. Yes. Second point is, like as you pointed out, Mark, there is a certain platform which was put out for the elections, and now when the task of forming the government will come, there will be a certain amount of stepping down which will happen. I think between the officially stated position at the time of the elections and between the forming of the government, we will see a lot of shift take place in that coalition talks to forming the government. So those three important issues, which you also flagged, anti-EU, anti-immigration, and those will come back into focus. But because not all the other parties are anti-EU, what does that mean for him is going to be important.
So he's also talking about withdrawing military support for Ukraine. He wants to slash spending on climate change as well. He's also, he wants to scrap the protected rights of religious freedoms, which are constitutionally protected. He doesn't have the mandate to do this, but, since he's come to power, and this has been, he's a far-right leader, he has to at least deliver on something.
Right. So he has you're very right to say he has part of a mandate.
Yeah.
He has a part of a mandate in terms of those seats he has, won. But building a government would mean a collective mandate. When you're going to get 3 other parties or 4 other parties to get to that magic number of 76, then, that mandate will start transforming. It cannot be, all or nothing if you have to form a government. So I think we will not see a dramatic, radical, because this is where the negotiations will become important. Let's take the anti-EU, slashing EU budgets and all. This would have an impact, but obviously he's not going to be setting Netherlands on the course of what happened in Britain, because he's also talked about a referendum against the European Union.
Yes.
And so, are we going to start looking at a next, we could call it an exit. We had a Brexit. Is an exit going to happen next? I think it's still early days for that, but there will be negotiations on all of this. You may see stepping down in the sense of reducing the budgetary support. Netherlands is one of the largest contributors, for example.
All right.
Climate change, again, the impact is happening, and all of these you will see a step back. Say if there was 100% agenda setting earlier, then something will come to like an 80% now, maybe another 10% in the 3rd year or 4th year.
Right.
And that means there will be an incremental approach as I read it, and that will the picture will really become clear once the coalition talks are done and we see the kind of constituted political parties who come in to make the government.
So he says he's in favor of a referendum, and he has only 37 seats. He doesn't have even 50% of the vote. He needs 76, as we say. People say that he needs the support of Mark Rutte's Conservative People's Party for Freedom and Democracy. He also needs the support of the centrist New Social Contract Party, which, as you know, are pro-European. He's probably unlikely to take this course of going for a referendum because it might leave him in minority. Do you think the coalition, any coalition, is going to be stable?
I think this depends a lot on the coalition talks on the issue of stability, if I were to take your last point first. And that is where the negotiations are going to be tough. The last time, as I said, it took 299 days after the election to form the government. That is the kind of, we have to look at it in terms of timeline. The election result does not guarantee an automatic forming of the government tomorrow. That's the first thing for our viewers. And it's going to be extremely tough negotiation talks because every party will try to hold its position. The party which will have to give a lot would be, the Freedom Party, because they are the ones wanting to form the government, right? So they would be the one which will have to kind of also see how is it they're willing to compromise, to negotiate, what are going to be the sticking points. If they're going to give up, say, a referendum on the EU, will they find a compromise solution by saying, okay, we can reduce budgetary support by 10 or 20%. So where those trade-offs are going to be extremely tough negotiations. But at this point, I think it's just an open slate in a sense. Definitely, there's an anxiety which is played out in the Dutch society, and that has been picked up very well by the Freedom Party.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Professor Baba. Thank you for your insights into the story. And moving on, then, New Zealand's incoming Prime Minister Christopher Luxon, he said that he hopes the swearing-in ceremony for the new government is going to take place on Monday after his National Party reached a deal with the ACT, the ACT New Zealand and the New Zealand First parties. Now, a formal signing agreement between these parties was expected on Friday, and ministerial positions could also be announced. The centre-right National Party won the largest share of votes in New Zealand's general election.
I'm very pleased to announce that we're in a position where we've concluded our negotiations with the respective parties. Those agreements are now before the parties for ratification, which we hope to have this evening, at which point I'll talk again to the Governor-General and formally confirm that we're able to form a government.
4 people were killed and 5 wounded in Russian shelling of Ukraine's southern region of Kherson on Thursday. The presidential official said that Russian forces had shelled the town of Berslav and killed a man who was riding on a bicycle. In a separate massive shelling of several settlements in Kherson district, 3 people, 2 men and a woman were killed. The Russian troops abandoned Kherson and the western bank of the Dnipro River late last year, but now regularly shell those regions from positions on the eastern bank. A Russian war correspondent has been killed in a drone strike by Ukrainian armed forces in the Russian-controlled southeastern Ukraine. And Russian state channel correspondent Boris Maksudov suffered grave shrapnel wounds. Doctors were unable to save his life. The Russian investigators claim that Ukraine's armed forces had struck a group of Russian journalists with fragmentation shells and drones. In another incident, a Russian actress also has been killed in a Ukrainian attack in the Donbas region. Polina Menchik was performing at a volunteer concert for Russian soldiers at the time of the attack. Authorities have reported other civilian deaths as well. Russia on Thursday announced tightened security in the northern Murmansk region after Finland said that it had closed all but one border crossing between the two countries. Helsinki said on Wednesday that the move follows a surge in attempted crossings by migrants seeking asylum into the EU, which Finland says is a destabilization ploy by Russia. Earlier, DD India correspondent Dasha Chernyshova sent us this report from Moscow.
Russian authorities have confirmed the death of journalist Boris Maksudov, who worked for Russian state television Russia 24. On Wednesday, a group of Russian journalists came under the Ukrainian fire in the Zaporizhia region. A 38-year-old Maksudov was wounded and taken to hospital. Initially, the Ministry of Defense said he was in a stable condition. However, he later died of shrapnel wounds. The ministry said Maksudov was in the group of journalists who were filming for the reports about the shelling of the Zaporizhia region. The Kremlin has extended its condolences to the family and colleagues of Boris Maksudov. Presidential spokesman Dmitry Peskov said the death of journalists underlines once again how dangerous is the work of journalists in the area of the special military operation in Ukraine, adding that journalists have become a direct target. Peskov also noted that he was not surprised by the lack of reaction on the part of Western politicians. Russian Foreign Ministry's spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said the Russian journalists for many years have been a target for the Ukrainian authorities. Russian investigative committee said it was going to look into the matter. It is not the first time that Russian journalists come under the Ukrainian fire. Last month, Moscow said 3 correspondents from the Izvestia news outlet were injured after being shelled in the Donetsk region. Dasha Cherneshova reported in Moscow for DD India.
And let's take a look now at some news in brief. Well, the German Interior Ministry has informed that authorities in Germany searched 15 properties with alleged connections to Hamas, as well as pro-Palestinian group Samidon. This has happened on Thursday. These searches came in the wake of a recent ban on the activities of both groups, as well as an effort to dissolve their properties in Germany. Videos uploaded to social media show fire and thick smoke rising from a vehicle that exploded on Wednesday on the Rainbow Bridge linking Canada with the United States at Niagara Falls. A preliminary investigation has found no indication of a terrorist attack in an explosion on the Rainbow Bridge linking Canada to the United States. This is what the New York Governor, Kathy Hochul, said on Wednesday. Amid a rare spring heat wave in the western part of Australia, firefighters battled bushfires that destroyed homes in the city of Perth. The temperatures are expected to reach as high as 40 degrees Celsius. Well, still to come here on DD India News Hour. We'll be discussing the ongoing rescue operations in the Uttarkashi tunnel. The WHO has asked China for more information on the surge of respiratory illnesses among children there. And foreign ministers of India and Seychelles have held talks in New Delhi.
Welcome to Jaipur.
You're watching DD India News Hour. My name is Mark Lin. Here's a recap of our main stories. A massive rescue operation is underway in India's hill state of Uttarakhand. The authorities say that the trapped workers in the tunnel are safe. There's proper communication that's been established. Qatar says the Israel-Hamas truce is to begin on Friday at 7 a.m. local time, and hostages are to be released in the evening. Populist leader Geert Wilders' Freedom Party emerges as the big winner in the election in the Netherlands. Wilders says that he's going to bring an end to the tsunami of asylum and immigration. And let's return to our top story, which is about the tunnel rescue operations in Uttarkashi, and we are joined by Mr. Narendra Bundela, who's the Inspector General of the National Disaster Response Force, who's joining us from Uttarkashi. Thank you very much, Mr. Bundela. Now, first of all, if I can ask you for an update on the drilling and the effectiveness and potential of the equipments being used, sir.
So auger machine is working. That is the first priority of the technical team which are working there. So that is on the job, and they are being careful because they don't want to be overactive so that they disturb the balance of the collapsed structure also. So they are working on the opening the collapsed part using the pipe. So they are on the job right now.
Indeed, and of course we are all concerned about the 41 workers there, but we must also consider the risks being undertaken by those who are doing the rescue operations themselves. So what are the safety measures for this rescue operation?
So the technical team, the engineers, the technical team which are working there, they have taken adequate precaution to protect themselves, and so that they are not going overactive to disturb the balance there, so that they are going very slowly. They are analyzing how the drilling is done, and slowly they are moving forward. And if required, they are also taking adequate precaution for, they have covered the pipes which are providing food and communication. They are provided with the concrete frame, so that also doesn't get disturbed if there is any further damage to the tunnel. So that is one. Secondly, they are in direct contact with the workers who are trapped inside, and all of them have been contacted, and they have been briefed what is being done on the other side, so they can be evacuated safely.
Okay, indeed. So you say that communication with the 41 workers has been established properly. I mean, we understand we are feeding them. We are also providing them with other requirements for their own sanity and their sanitation, keeping up their morale. I mean, what is the assessment of the 41 workers? What's their current condition like?
So all of them have been contacted. They are in high spirit, especially once a good communication has been established with them, and food is being supplied, water is being supplied, and through camera, through communication equipment, doctors, medical team are able to contact them. Even their relatives, those who have arrived, they have been able to contact them. So they are in great spirit, and they are waiting the team to make access to the other side so that they can be evacuated.
The NDRF has proved itself, in various calamities. We've seen floods, earthquakes. How different has this experience been for the NDRF?
So tunnel collapse, there have been previous incidents also. So in this case, the number of persons who have been trapped is very high. That is one. Secondly, right now it is the technical team of NHI, DCL and other agencies, those who are involved in tunneling or in boring also, they are directly involved in the process. So it's a very technical job of the engineers, those who are trying to make an access. And NDRF has also planned, if we are able to get the access, NDRF along with the SDRF and other agencies, we would try to get access to the inside and try to evacuate them safely. And so this particular experience is typical because thankfully all of them are safe, and we have had good communication with them, and the number is huge. So it becomes very important to evacuate them safely. So safety for everyone, even for the rescuers, the workers who are working there on the site, it is very important right now.
So as per the plan that is available in the public domain, is that they are going to be evacuated by using stretchers to pull them out, and then their ambulances are on standby to take them to a hospital 30 kilometers away. The path has been clear for the ambulances. When can we, expect this to actually happen? Because people are talking about it like it's going to happen tomorrow.
Yes, so engineers and workers, they are working round the clock, as I said earlier also. So telling me the exact time may not be appropriate at this stage, because it is going step by step and it has to be done very carefully. So I am sure we will be able to reach the technical team, the workers who are working there, they will be able to reach to the other side very soon. But regarding the time frame, it may not be appropriate for me to comment right now.
So there are also reports that suggest that, all under construction tunnels are going to be audited. Can you, give us some information about this?
Excuse me, I could not get you.
No, that reports are suggesting that there's going to be an audit of all the tunnels that are under construction. I mean, NDRF could also be made aware of that. After all, I mean, there could be other incidents where this could happen. There are about 20 such tunnels, I think, that are being constructed across the country. So in this context, I mean, is this, can you fill us in with some details, sir?
So I think it would be the concerned ministry and the constructing agencies. They should be able to comment better on that because I am looking at the response part.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Narendra Bundela, the Inspector General of the NDRF. Thank you for joining us from Uttarkashi. Thank you. So some more international news now. The European Union has approved $1 billion of advance payments to Hungary in a bid to stop Budapest from blocking Brussels' aid to Ukraine. Earlier, the bloc had frozen Hungary out of the post-pandemic economic stimulus package. And in turn, Hungary had blockaded EU's decisions to grant Ukraine 50 billion euros in economic aid. Budapest also stalled a plan to extend 20 billion euros in EU military aid to Kiev. Argentina on Thursday hiked taxes on dollar savings and bank cards purchases. This is to protect the central bank's limited reserves. The decision, it comes weeks before President-elect Javier Milei assumes office on December 10. The measure, announced in Argentina's official gazette, stated that the advance payment of income tax increased to 100% from 45%. And the change means that Argentinians who are using the dollar credit cards or buying foreign currency for savings will pay rates closer to those in alternative markets. The World Health Organization is asking China for more information on reports of clusters of pneumonia in children and a general rise in the respiratory disease. The Chinese authorities had recently said that such illnesses were at their highest level in these years. DD India's Andrew Wood reports from Hong Kong.
Well, the health authorities in China noted about 10 days ago that there was an increase. There were much higher level of respiratory diseases and illnesses in China than a year ago, the highest for 3 years. In a way, that's not unexpected because, remember, a year ago, China was in the middle of some very, very strict measures to try to stop the spread of COVID. And if you stop the spread of COVID, you also stop the spread of other diseases like flu and so on. Nevertheless, there have been other reports from an organisation known as ProMed of what they consider could be undiagnosed pneumonia, especially amongst children. Now, it's unclear that the WHO's request, whether this is about the general rise in respiratory illnesses or whether it's more specifically about this apparent spike or cluster amongst children. We still don't know. This is one of the reasons, after all, why the WHO is asking for information. Now, the authorities in Beijing have said that this is just a routine request of information from the WHO. But do remember, think back to 3 years ago when we were having the, well, just before COVID-19 emerged, was that cluster of cases emerged in China. And there were a lot of complaints and criticisms of the WHO and China as well for not being very transparent in the way that information was collected and disseminated, or for that matter was not disseminated. And so there's been a lot of scrutiny of both China and the WHO since then. And remember, this is quite controversial. Remember, a couple of years ago, Australia called for an independent investigation into the origins of COVID, an independent international investigation. And China didn't like that at all, and it put sanctions and tariffs on many Australian products as a result. In Hong Kong, I'm Andrew Wood, reporting for DD India.
The World Bank and Bangladesh on Thursday signed 5 financing agreements worth over $1.1 billion. This is to help the country achieve resilience and inclusive growth. The projects, they include early childhood development, primary health, secondary education, gas distribution efficiency, among others. The agreements were signed in the presence of the Senior Secretary of Bangladesh Government, Sharifa Khan, and the World Bank Country Director for Bangladesh, Abdullahi Sek. This happened in Dhaka. Paper World Middle East and Gifts and Lifestyle Middle East, they concluded their largest ever edition at the Dubai World Trade Center, leaving an indelible mark on the global paper, gifting and lifestyle industries. The co-located events, which attracted over 10,000 visitors from more than 100 countries, showcased an array of trends, innovation, and a renewed commitment to sustainability. The exhibition provided a robust platform for the global paper trade in the region, featuring country pavilions from India, Germany, China, Hong Kong, Turkey, as well as Jordan. And back home, Seychelles Foreign Minister Sylvester Radegonde, who's in India on a 3-day visit. It's an official visit, met India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar. It's happened in New Delhi on Thursday. So on the second day of this visit of his, The two leaders had wide-ranging conversations on bilateral relations. They also exchanged views on regional concerns. After the meeting, the Indian External Affairs Minister announced an exchange of MOUs on Indian grant assistance for implementation of small development projects and cooperation in the field of youth and sports. The Finance Minister of India, Nirmala Sitharaman, during an interaction in New Delhi on Thursday, stated that security of consumer data is her government's top priority. Let's listen.
The government's policy or the government's approach in creating public platforms which are going to be used by the customer or the citizen or the individual who wants banking facility is top on the priority list. His data is completely protected. It cannot be misused. But at the same time, it shall not be so restrictive that the person will have to run between one pillar to the other post to seek facility. The moment you approve that you're willing to give it, yes, to that limited purpose, it will be shared without much hindrance. So on data protection, I can assure the Indian citizens that your data remains completely safe.
Well, let's take a look at other stories making the news. India's Minister for Communications, Electronics and Information Technology, Ashwini Vaishnav, on Thursday chaired a meeting with social media platforms and other stakeholders on the issue of deep fakes. And he stated that new regulations will be brought with a focus on 4 aspects. That's detection, prevention, reporting, mechanism, as well as awareness. Relentless heavy rains continue to lash India's southern state of Kerala, leading to a flood-like situation in various cities. The state authorities have urged people to exercise extra caution in high ranges and low-lying areas. Landslides and intense waterlogging, they have affected the normal life of people in the state. And India's Enforcement Directorate has issued a summons to the actor Prakash Raj in a 100 crore rupees Ponzi scheme linked to the Pranav Jewelers money laundering case. He was the brand ambassador of a partnership firm based out of Trichy in Tamil Nadu. And still to come here on DD India News Hour. Campaigning ends for elections to the Western Indian state of Rajasthan, and polling is on the 25th of November. The 4th day of the 54th edition of the International Film Festival of India in Goa.
A platform for the developing world, amplifying the voice of the global south with a focus on the growing economies, resolving the conflicts, showcasing the culture, tradition, heritage and diversity. Watch Voice of the Global South at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar addressed the international finals of the G20, the Indian Navy Quiz. This took place at India Gate in New Delhi, happening on Thursday. The Vice President said that the G20 event, organized under India's presidency, was a historic event and will be remembered for centuries.
The Indian Navy Quiz went global this year to commemorate
Azadi Ka Amrit Kaal, with India assuming the chairmanship of prestigious G20. The Navy has transformed this competition, G20 Think, into a beacon of unity, promoting cultural exchange and friendship among G20 nations.
Election campaigning has concluded for the Legislative Assembly elections in the Western Indian state, the desert state of Rajasthan, as it's often called. The voting is scheduled to take place on November 25. And on the final day of campaigning on Thursday, prominent leaders from all parties vigorously campaigned in support of their candidates. India's Home Minister and senior BJP leader Amit Shah conducted a roadshow in Nimbahera, Chittorgarh of Rajasthan. And the Congress leaders also campaigned in the state. The Chief Minister, Ashok Gehlot, held a press conference in Jaipur highlighting his government's achievements. The Congress leader and spokesperson, Randeep Surjewala, was also present at that press conference, and he repeated several announcements made in the Congress party's manifesto. And campaigning is also underway in the southern Indian state of Telangana. The star campaigners in Telangana actively have been campaigning for candidates of their respective parties. It's India's largest political party, the Bharatiya Janata Party. It targeted opponents over dynastic politics, which is quite common in the southern parts of India. The BJP National President, J.P. Nadda, addressed a public meeting in Nizamabad and targeted the Chief Minister, Chandrasekhar Rao, over his dynastic politics.
परिवारवाद की बात बोलता हूं तो मैं ये भी आपको बताना चाहता हूं कि सिर्फ केसीआर का सवाल नहीं है। ये सारे देश में जितनी भी परिवारवाद की पार्टियां हैं, उससे लड़ने का काम और देश में राष्ट्रीय पार्टी आगे बढ़े, इसका काम किसी ने लिया है तो भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने लिया है। और यहां भी केसीआर, केटीआर, कविता, उसका बेटा यही परिवार है और कुछ नहीं है, ये भी हमको समझना चाहिए। इसलिए परिवारवाद के खिलाफ ये लड़ाई भारतीय जनता पार्टी लड़ती है।
And the BRS, which is the party of Mr. Rama Rao, claimed to address the issue of poverty in Telangana.
This party is a murderer of Telangana youth. They have blood on their hands. Whether Khargeji would like to admit to it or not, people of Telangana.
And the fourth day of the 54th edition of the International Film Festival of India is underway in the coastal state of Goa. It showcased a wide range of films from various countries, offering a diverse cinematic experience for those attending.
One of the highlights of the day was the screening of the films in international competition, including Measures of Men, directed by Lars Krohn, and The Other Widow, directed by Mayan Rip. Another notable screening on day 4 were of Hakikat and Bisal Baad in the restored classics section. In addition to film screenings, the day also included panel discussions and interactive sessions with renowned filmmakers and industry professionals. There was an in-conversation session with actor Pankaj Tripathi. Another session titled Indian Documentary on World Stage featured Kartiki Gonsalves, R.V. Ramani, among others, and another session held was titled The Road to Oscars, which had the presence of Guneet Monga Kapoor, Carter Pilcher, Rasul Pulkutti, and Sonal Kalra.
A platform like this is going to give a lot of empowerment to the new youth, and I'm looking forward to interacting with them, looking forward to parting my little bit of knowledge that I have acquired.
Such a great community of people here that are like-minded and who have goals to just go out and tell great stories, whatever it might be, if it's fiction, if it's documentaries, and I think there's so much potential in a space like this of people coming together.
The gala premiere of Hari Om Hari, a 2023 Gujarati comedy film directed and written by Nisarg Vaidya, was also witnessed. The film stars Siddharth Randeria, Ronak Kamdar, Vyoma Nandi and Malhar Rathod. Overall, Day 4 of the International Film Festival of India in Goa offered a wide range of films from different countries, showcasing the diversity and artistry of global cinema.
Day 4 of the 54th IFFI concludes, and with this we can say that we are halfway into the film festival. Cinebuffs and entertainment lovers have enjoyed the day thoroughly with various masterclasses, in-conversation sessions and screening of movies in the restored classics, Indian panorama, international competition and much more, many other segments. We look forward to day 5 as it unfolds with many interesting and similar activities. With camera person Sanjeev Sharma, this is Shama Mishra for DD India, Goa.
Well, you're watching DD India News Hour and time for some sports news now. The rise in Indian para-sports dominance in the world as dominating the world podium as well. Indian para arms wrestler, he's an arm wrestler, Srimant Jha, secured the bronze medal in the ongoing Asia Cup Para Arm Wrestling Championship in Uzbekistan. Srimant won the bronze medal in the 90 kg category and he defeated Uzbekistan's Arba Rustamov in the quarterfinals and has clinched his 44th international medal in para arm wrestling. The qualification for the Croatia Para Arm Wrestling Championship also was achieved. The former West Indies batter Marlon Samuels has been banned from all forms of cricket for 6 years. He was found guilty of breaching the Emirates Cricket Board Anti-Corruption Code. Samuels was charged by the ICC in their capacity as the designated anti-corruption official under the ECB code on a total of 4 charges in September of 2021 and then found guilty of the offences in August this year. The ban for 6 years was confirmed by the ICC on Thursday. It will commence from November 11, 2023. Samuels played more than 300 matches for the West Indies over an 18-year period, scoring 17 centuries in total, and he even captained the Caribbean side at the ODI level. In fact, he was the top scorer in the final of both the 2012 and 2016 editions of the ICC Men's T20 World Cup, which the West Indies won. And that's all we have in this edition of the DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lin from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks very much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.